Deep Dive Film School makes no claim of ownership of the film footage used in this episode. The film footage is owned entirely by the copyright holders. Also, we're going to spoil the hell out of this movie, so this is your warning. Welcome to Deep Dive Film School!
Oh, this week we're going to continue our Complicated Failures Festival with Peter Jackson's 2009, The Lovely Bones.
Let's dive on in.
See if they're lovely.
Yeah. All right, everybody, I am Adam Sherlock.
And I'm Adam Poulter.
And if you like what you see/hear, please like and subscribe. You can find us in all the places and spaces that people what, Adam?
Find good media.
That's right, they certainly do.
And find other things.
Yeah, bad media.
Average media.
Yeah, QAnon stuff. Just, pretty much anything. Anti-vax stuff. Anything you can think of, you can find on YouTube. But you can also find our show. And right now we are in the third installment of our Complicated Failures Festival. Let's talk about The Lovely Bones. Why did we choose The Lovely Bones?
Well, you chose it, so you can give me that answer. But I think it's in the theme of the rest of the festival, where we're picking good directors, bad films, I guess, to a degree.
Panned films that did poorly at the box office.
I think it can be a variety, whether it had a huge budget and it got nothing, or it's perceived as a crappy movie.
There's a number of different reasons for sure. I think with The Lovely Bones, this is definitely, you got Peter Jackson coming off of his high from, pulling off what people thought he could never do, which is the entire trilogy of Lord of the Rings. Like, it was a massive, massive deal. Yeah,
he just won like 1 million Academy Awards for the last one, just as like a ultimate, yes,
here you go,
awesome with all of these.
Exactly, so, and so
here's a culmination reward.
And I think him and Fran Walsh, and then I can't think of his wife's name. The three of them always worked together.
Yeah.
They apparently had really wanted to do this adaptation for a really long time.
The Alice Sebold novel.
The Lovely Bones, and. A
young girl gets murdered.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then she's in
Purgatory? Yeah, she's in Purgatory.
And is kind of like she's
trying to help
talking to her family.
Yeah, and she's like trying to help solve her own murder, kind of. Yeah, she needs to. I guess she needs to get to heaven. That's a little vague.
Yeah.
This movie. I realize this movie is supposed to.
I love that moment. That was pretty good.
Both of us.
I think this is what it's about.
I think this is what it's about. So I realize.
That should give you an idea of where we're going here, I think.
Yes. So I realize that this movie is, and the book too, is supposed to be told from the perspective of a 14-year-old.
Partially based off of a true story as well.
Yes.
Obviously, the in-between stuff is not real.
Right. And I realize it's supposed to be like from the eyes of a 14-year-old, but that doesn't mean that it should be told like it was written by a 14-year-old. And this thing is like it's been written by a 14-year-old. It is so all over the place, and it cares about things that I don't care about at all. I'm sorry you never got your first kiss with the British boy with the curly black hair, but should we really spend so much of the movie worried about that after she's been murdered?
Yeah, I think
I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, once she's murdered is up till there, it's a pretty straightforward movie, right? For the most part, it's fine.
It's a period piece, takes place in the 70s.
Yeah, we have a great cast: Rachel Weisz, Stanley Tucci, Saoirse Ronan, Mark Wahlberg, Susan Sarandon, Michael Imperioli. So a solid cast. I would take that in most movies.
Sure,
right? Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
That's a great cast. And then it's a pretty basic teen. Going
coming
through
of
life.
age.
I like boys.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And, whatever. Just going through the trials and tribulations of what it is to be a teenager, right?
Yeah.
And then, we finally get to what she's been talking about. She tells us that she was murdered on December 6th, whatever year.
Yeah.
And, we know she's dead, which to me, okay, so is this voiceover coming from in the in-between? When are you reflecting on this story to tell the story?
Yeah.
A little bit. You can't take voiceover that seriously, probably, to a degree. But at the same time, still had the question in my head about like what's actually happening here.
Also, God damn it, her name is Susie Salmon.
That's a good name.
Is it though, or is it a name a 14-year-old would come up with?
No, I think that's a good name. Susie Salmon.
Right out of the
like
gates.
The fish,
I know, it is like the fish. It was just one of those things where right out of the gates I was like, Jesus Christ. Okay. All right, Susie Salmon. Yeah, and then there's this voiceover. She talks about being murdered. God, okay, let's just get into it. Tonally, this movie has no idea. This movie, it was made by a computer that was like, this is like, has all the things a movie should have in it. It's like you don't understand from one moment to the next the way that you're supposed to be feeling in this movie. Yep. I could not figure out what the hell Peter Jackson wanted me to feel. But I can tell you what I did feel. Stanley Tucci is fucking hilarious in this movie. I mean, almost every time he shows up on screen, I would laugh out loud. It is the most fucking ridiculous...
Wow.
He is hilarious in this movie. He has in these blue contacts and this blonde wispy comb over, and he's total stranger danger 100%. It's like he walked off of a fucking Saturday Night Live sketch. There's literally about serial killers or about child molesters. Like there's literally a scene.
He's definitely checking the boxes.
There's a scene later in the movie that I know is supposed to be scary, where he's literally standing in the bushes watching some teenage girls jog by, and I straight up went like, I was like, really? Like, we're not even trying to make it seem like it's never the guy who you think it is. Sure. It's the fucking loner dude.
We know who it
who
is.
Lives across the street, who like has never married, who has a crazy comb over and giant Jeffrey Dahmer glasses and a fucking station wagon, who builds doll houses. I was like, this is so stupid.
It is to a degree, and I don't think it's fair to compare it to Jeffrey Dahmer, since technically that hadn't happened yet. And
yeah.
she even says in the voiceover that like this happened at a time when people never even thought that child murder was a thing.
People didn't lock their doors. Yeah. Stranger danger wasn't a thing. Yeah, I mean, this is a decade before the stranger danger panic.
Yeah,
totally.
all that stuff. So I get it, but I agree. He's checking off the serial killer boxes for sure, all over the place.
It's like every time he showed up, I was just like this. And I mean, the poor guy's working his ass off. Everybody in this is working as hard as they can.
Did you know that this is Stanley Tucci's only Oscar-nominated performance?
No, come on!
Ever! His only one! Tucci, who's great!
No! For this?
This is... He got Best Supporting Actor.
It's so...
Only nomination.
It's so bad. It is so bad. I'm sorry. Maybe he's the best actor in this movie, but this is... It is laughable. Like, I seriously, it was unintentionally fucking hilarious.
Well, I know he took the role very seriously. He had a lot of trouble as an actor trying to deal with being a child molester.
Sure.
I apologized to Saoirse after every take, practically, or just said, "Are you okay? Are you all right? You okay?" And she did the same thing to me, too, interestingly. She's a very mature young lady.
I mean, that's what you would have to say, though, isn't it?
Yes, for sure. But
you wouldn't be like, I had a blast.
But they went to But they went to the point where they took and nixed super big, important parts of the movie or of the book out of the movie, including a rape scene that he said he would have never agreed to if that was in the original thing. So, but apparently the book is way different, or not. Like some major pivotal points. There is a affair with the detective that the mom has, which is kind of why she leaves.
Oh.
There is the rape scene there, and I believe something else. I can't remember. Which, we don't need to see that.
Oh, even I did hear about this. It was like a flashback of Tucci's character's childhood.
Yeah, and we get a little of that.
Yeah, I think it's more of that. And they were like,
yeah, we get his past a little bit, but it's more about his past as a killer.
Yeah, his victims.
And you see like it was his landlady, and then it was like another young girl.
Yeah. There's like 6 different victims. Yeah.
Yeah, and we get to hang out with them later. We'll get there. But she's essentially watching her family from Purgatory.
Yeah, I think it's Purgatory.
But what's more important, like watching her family, like trying to get her family to heal, or is it getting revenge?
That's the thing, and you don't. And there isn't any kind of like rules to why she is where she is. Like, why is she in purgatory? Like, you think because of the name of the movie, you're like, oh, this is like a stir of echoes thing. Like, she can't rest until her body's found or something like that. Like, those are the kind of cliches that you imagine are going to happen. It's really interesting. There's a lot of credit in other reviews given to, well, we knew that Peter Jackson, because, he's wet a workshop and, he created all of Middle Earth.
He's
so
jacking off all over this movie. It's
right,
self-masturbatory when you see big marbles in the ocean and like the dad's glass
ship in a bottle.
Well,
and I was also just kind of like, like it doesn't, like, with the exception of the marbles and the ship in the water and all that, I was like, most of Purgatory is just like weird shaped mountains and everything is tinted gold.
And
I said it looked
around.
I thought it looked like if Salvador Dali was mixed with Thomas Kincaid. Like, that's what it looked like. I was like, it just looked kind of cheesy.
It had some What Dreams May Come like vibes to it, right?
But what Dreams May Come is so much more interesting looking.
But she gets to go sledding in this one. She goes sledding.
I mean, it's like...
It's what she says at one point in the movie is like it's a little bit of hell and a little bit of heaven mixed together. And
but I don't even see what part's hell. It just, other than it being slightly boring. Like, it's slightly boring looking. Like, it's not very interesting. And yeah, I couldn't figure out all the moments that are her there. I was like, but you...
And who's this random Asian girl who's here?
Yeah, and like...
Holly Golightly.
Yeah, and you're sledding, and I'm like, but you got raped and just a minute ago. We had to watch it, or at least it was implied upon.
Okay.
And like, so why don't, like, now you're sledding and your family is like mourning the fact that you've obviously been murdered by someone. How am I supposed to feel? And then fucking Susan Sarandon shows up. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Yep. Why are you in this movie?
Great question.
And why, and like,
why are we trying to be funny with her montage?
Why are we doing like an Uncle Buck style, like, she's smoking while doing the laundry? And I'm like, a girl was raped and murdered like 5 minutes ago, you guys. I'm sorry.
Okay, can I read this? You may have this in your research.
Okay.
But this seems like an appropriate time to read this Roger Ebert review of the movie.
Oh, give it to us.
Have you heard this?
I don't think so.
One of our heroes. Okay. Robert Ebert gave a scathing review of this movie, awarding it to only 1/2 of a star. Quote, after the rape and murder, the really cool part starts. Ebert states in the beginning, sardonically, of course, and then he continues with his scorched earth interview. The Lovely Bones is a deplorable film with this message. If you're a 14-year-old girl who has been brutally raped and murdered by a serial killer, you have a lot to look forward to. You can get together in heaven with your other teenage victims of the same killer and gaze down in benevolence upon your family members as they mourn you and realize what a wonderful person you were. Sure, you'll miss your friends, but the fellow fatalities come dancing to greet you in a meadow of wildflowers. How cool is that?
Oh, fuck!
He goes on to criticize the movie for having the completely wrong tone for actually romanticizing being raped and murdered by a serial killer, and then the other worldly rewards that come afterwards, like heaven, and having all your dreams come true. Ebert calls this film creepy and it's inappropriate messaging.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Mr. Ebert. I could not agree more. And he's totally right. Like, once that part happens, and I will say, it's one of the parts of the movie I thought looked really good, like the way that it was shot.
It looks fine.
The weird underground, like, kid hangout thing that he built. Yeah. Like, the way that it's lit was, like, really cool, but then, like...
Don't go in there.
Well, yes, do not go in there. But also, I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why build all of that? Like, you could have built it, but, like, in my head, I'm like, so you went to the drugstore and bought fucking Archie and Jughead comics to, like, make sure they're prominently displayed with your little votive candles. I'm like, why? You've already murdered 6 other girls. You know what you're going to do.
You got to lure them in somehow.
It's not like he raped her and then panicked. It was the point to begin with. He literally could have been like, hey, look in there. And she could have looked down there, and it could have had like his rubber clown suit, and then he could have just hit her over the head and killed her.
Yeah.
But instead, he like went to all the trouble of like decorating it with all this stuff and then hanging out with her. I'm like, this is so bizarre. Like, it's a very...
Half the time I was like, is this really happening? But it wasn't like in a cool way, right? It was it was just like, so the note and her bracelet and all this stuff. And obviously, you know, we see her running away. They cut away and we see her running out of the thing. But you come to realize, she didn't. And you're just following her ghost or something.
Through Silent Hill, apparently, or something. Well, and the thing that's weird, too, is it's like... and I think this is really interesting and worth mentioning, is that the book did amazing, right? Like, the book won all kinds of awards and, like, got all this notoriety. What's really interesting, and this is a slight tangent, but what's really interesting about Alice Sebold is that her first book, Lucky, was based on her own experience of being accosted and raped, like in an alley, like when she was younger. And that they found the guy and they tried the guy and he went to prison for like 20 years and all this stuff. And she wrote a book about it. And it turned out that like they think that the guy had killed these other women that he had raped. And it was, you know, so when they optioned Lucky, one of the main producers who was going to put all this money behind the film option for it, read it and said, once the second half of the book started, where it got to the trial and all these things that happened, he was like, I didn't believe it. Like, I was like, this is really unbelievable. It's really weird. And he went to her and asked her, and she was like, no, this is exactly what happened. So he pulled his money from it and instead started investigating the innocence of the guy who was convicted of her rape. And it turned out he was innocent. And he had been in prison for like 20 some odd years.
Oh, no.
And that she had fingered him in a lineup and was wrong. And that there had been some botched hair follicle analysis. And the guy had been protesting his innocence for all these years. And so they actually paused her first book, Lucky. You can no longer find it. I mean, I'm sure you can find a used copy. Because she was like, I can't tell this story anymore because I was wrong. So it's interesting in some ways, like, just that
she admitted she was wrong.
She admitted she was wrong. Good. Yeah, totally. But that you know, The Lovely Bones was written at a time when she still believed that was who this guy was. So this was
her makeup story for that one that couldn't be told anymore.
But, well, not really, because this is before he was exonerated. She did Lovely Bones.
Oh, it was before.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, and even the movie was produced before all of this stuff came out.
Interesting. Now I wonder what Jackson thinks about it. Now that it, you know, I mean, even the fact that it's based on a true story. What a weird next film to choose. To be like, oh, I want to do that one, the one with rape and murder in it, but it's PG-13.
But it's PG-13, and it has this world. Well, and you know, and we've talked about this before with What Dreams May Come. Is it's really difficult to have tension and a sense of urgency when your main character is dead, right?
Sure.
But this movie tries to do that. Will they catch the creepy murderer? Well, you think?
Well, I don't know. That's what I can't figure out. Right? Is like, so are we trying to set her free?
Yeah.
Are we trying to set her family free? Are we trying to catch him?
Yeah.
This turns into a father-daughter story for like 30 minutes.
Yep.
Like,
yep.
what, like...
With Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, and him continuing to chase, and the mom's gone at that point, and you're like, okay, so is that what it's about?
Yeah, what is this movie actually
what
about?
What are all these people? And obviously that comes to be all of his victims, like Ebert mentioned.
Right.
But it's just like, so are we in his heaven or hell?
And
like,
were they all waiting until he killed another girl
just
before
like
they could
Coraline, where all the kids are like,
yeah, they can't go until can set them free. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is I was like, well, there can't be that much tension because you think to yourself, of course they're going to catch Stanley Tucci. I mean, if they didn't catch him, the family has no closure. If they never find her body, she can't go to heaven. And the audience will leave the theater looking for Jackson's fucking head on a pike because they'll be furious that they sat through such an icky premise for a movie that's almost 2.5 hours long for him to never be caught.
Oh, don't worry. He gets his comeuppance.
Oh, my God. his comeuppance is like some Final Destination,
totally
magical, like what our protagonist from A Christmas Story worried would happen if he accidentally shot his eye out.
Yep.
Happens to
That's
Stanley
what happens
Tucci.
to the serial rapist.
I was so furious.
An icicle.
Yeah, gets like a little like it's totally
like,
Final.
She can control that world. She's in like the
but by that point,
Stranger Things, Upside Down.
The
right?
Upside Down. But here's the problem: she's not even in the Upside Down anymore.
No,
so this stupid movie can't even follow its own logic.
It's fate.
I hate this movie. I hate
more
this
than
movie.
AI.
Actually, yeah, I do.
Wow,
I hate this movie. I hate this movie, but I do like this movie for one reason. It finally made me realize that I don't like Mark Wahlberg. I think he is a bad actor. I like him in The Departed. He's funny there.
Boogie Nights.
But here's the thing. He's not acting like a dumb person in Boogie Nights. He's acting like Mark Wahlberg. Right? And everything he does, he talks really high like this, and this is how Mark Wahlberg acts.
Like, I don't mind him.
I fucking hate him. He is so stupid in this movie. Every decision he makes is dumb.
This movie is not his fault.
Dude, he runs into a cornfield with a baseball bat because he thought he saw who the killer might be.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh my god.
Yeah, his indication was developing that last roll of film where she's driving on her bike, and that was the last thing he thought of. He's like, oh, I never thought of that creepy guy in the greenhouse before.
Like, you never thought about that guy. You never thought about this single middle-aged man with a comb-over who makes dollhouses. It never occurred to you that maybe he killed your daughter. They never find her body. Like, it is such bullshit. It is like...
Even the scene where the sister goes into the house and with the tension of, like, finding like, slowly, like, putting down the...
Oh my god. And it's broad daylight,
yeah.
And it's like, you just saw him leave. Like, why not? Like, whatever. Wait until he goes out of town on vacation and then creep around in his house.
I don't think he goes on vacation.
Yeah, and the tension of the little piece of wood block
that
in
was
there.
Weird
and
because, like, I don't know. She went running anyways.
Yeah, well, and that's just it. Is it's like, again, there is no mystery, there is no tension because we know who killed her. Like, even if they had made it a mystery and there was like 5 Stanley Tucci's all with bad comb-overs that lived in the neighborhood. Like, if she just lived in this neighborhood that was rife with pedophiles, and you're like, who could it be?
Yeah, it could
right.
Be
Which one is it? Is it Matt Dillon from There's Something About Mary, or is it Stanley Tucci? Is it right? You could have
I think
a whole
this
bunch
is
of them.
another movie that is a victim of too long of an ending. Right?
Oh my god!
15 minutes too long, just like AI. And it just needs more focus. Like, there's way too many unanswered questions and unnecessary plot points. Like, focus on what you want to say. Are we in the in-between? Are we out of it? Like, is this a murder mystery? Or, like, because we know who the murderer is the whole time. They even wait, like, 20 plus minutes to actually show his face.
So what you're doing is you are waiting for a character in the movie to realize something you've known for an hour. Like, in its own way, is that better or worse than AI, where you're like, he's never going to realize it because...
Depends on how you make it. Because that can be a very intriguing, fun thing, knowing something that the main character doesn't.
Yeah, because the main character could put themselves in danger multiple times.
Yeah. There's more, you're more scared for them. You understand what's at stake. But here, it was like, so... What do we, like, I know it's important to catch him, but, like, what is the ultimate goal here? Because for the movie, not for them as a family or her to get her revenge, I guess.
Yeah, like, you couldn't even have, like they do it a tiny bit, but I was, like, waiting for the moment where she comes back in ghost form and, like, scares the shit out of Stanley Tucci.
She does come back, but just to make out with her boyfriend, though.
That reminds me. That's the other thing they changed from the book.
Oh.
In the book... they have sex.
Oh, that's it. You're right. That was the thing.
Can you even imagine how gross that would be? And I'm sorry, it begs the question: is she in the other girl's body like Whoopi Goldberg and Ghost?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Or is he just like
thing?
Or is he like making out over just an empty spot on a bed like Dan Aykroyd in Ghostbusters? Like, what is like?
I mean, the other girl is still there.
Did she consent to be kissed?
I'm going with Ghost. I'm going with Ghost.
So it's like she's like Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah.
So did she consent to be kissed? Because he's technically kissing her. I mean, he is a good-looking kid, so probably.
He's got an accent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I fucking hate this movie. It's so stupid. The second that kid showed up with his British accent, referring to himself as the Moor from Othello, I was like, just have it be like a dumb, pasty, freckled kid like it totally would be in the 1970s.
Yeah.
In that Midwestern town. It's not going to be a British kid with beautiful hair. Like, don't... Stop it. This movie's written by a 14-year-old. I'm sorry. It sucks.
He's a senior too, right?
I mean, who cares?
All right, everyone. Well, I think that's our cue to end this review. Always fun. We're going to continue this festival. We're going to do Cloud Atlas next.
Oh,
so
that's
be ready
next.
for that. Tom Hanks, you're up again. I'm sorry about that. And then next week, we are going to do our
That One Scene
from Network.
That's right.
All right. Stay tuned. Play along. Like and subscribe. Hit
Yes.
that notification bell, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye, you guys.
See ya.